Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Lisa Brooks. I work at United Way of King County. I'm the Impact Associate, and I'm so glad to have all of you here today to talk about our PCHP expansion. Before I go any further, I do want to mention that this is being recorded. Right now, it's just Pam and myself in view, and no one else will actually be in view on this recording, but your voices will be recorded, so I just want to let everyone know that, and this is going to be available for folks to view that aren't able to attend one of these sessions. All right, so I'm going to quickly go over the agenda. So in a moment, you will all get a chance to introduce yourselves. Then I'm going to give some background about why we're here. Then we're going to get into what you're all here for, which is going over the RFP and the application. I'm going to share some resources that you have access to in order to go through this process. And then the last 15 to 20 minutes is going to be a training on using our online system, eIMPACT. So my colleague Damien from United Way is going to lead that training. And if you are familiar with eIMPACT, you've used it before, there's really no need for you to stay for that portion if you want to head out at that point, and I'll let you know when that is. So that's what we're going to go through today. So I just want to mention that this RFP is produced in partnership between United Way of King County Best Starts for Kids, and the City of Seattle. All three of these funders have recognized the Parent-Child Home Program as a really important and effective program and are integrating it into their early learning strategies. All three of the funding partners share commitments to equity, racial equity, and social justice. And the actual application process and the contracts are being done by United Way of King County. I want to introduce my colleagues that are here today. Pamela Williams is the statewide coordinator for the PCHP program. She's a wealth of knowledge on the PCHP model. Hello. And Melanie Maltree is with King County Best Starts for Kids, and she is the home-based services manager. So when you all have questions today, they may be jumping in with answers as well. So I'd love to get a sense of who is in the room. So I'd like to do some introductions. If everyone could share their name, what organization you are representing, and then briefly about who your organization serves and where you serve geographically. If there's something you want to share about what you're hoping to learn or a burning question, this is a great time for that as well. But if there's nothing on top of mind, that's okay too. Would anyone be willing to start us off?
Sir.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen Spelbeck. I'm with International Rescue Committee, IRC. We're based out in SeaTac. Work primarily with refugee and asylee populations, also anti-trafficking victims. And I've never personally done the eIMPACT system, so I'm excited to get the training on that.
Hi, my name is Shamsa Isaac. I have an organization called Living Well Kent, and Living Well Kent is a community-led organization that helps community of low-income immigrants and refugees in Kent. And our work is, our focus is to help community of immigrants, Somalis, Iraqis, Syrians, Swahili-speaking Africans, and Sudanese, and we have Burmese community also in Kent, and some Vietnamese community. And we help the community to get resources and do to live healthier and more equitable to everyone else in the community.
Morning, my name is Zamzam, and I'm with an organization called Voices of Tomorrow. We're here in South Seattle, where we also provide services across the King County. We're in the early learning sector, so we provide We have a preschool program just right now starting bilingual Somali and English, and then also we provide services to family childcare providers from English and East African. And then we work with a little work with youth around social justice and also peace circles. So that's what we're doing as Snapshot.
Thank you.
My name is Ellen, and I'm with the Pregnancy and Parenting Support Program of Catholic Community Services. So we serve women who are pregnant and families with children under the age of 5. We recently just transitioned our support group. Every Thursday, there's a support group that meets. We just transitioned it into a play and learn group. What I hope to learn is I'm very interested to learn about the eIMPACT program, because right now I have someone who's inputting our data. So I think if we're gonna get funded with this new program, I'll probably have to start doing that. I'm looking forward to the training.
Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Aretha Strange. I'm with Southeast Youth Family Services. We service youth from ages 2 to 19 in the Southeast.
Good morning, my name is Damian Spence. I'm with United Way of King County, and I get the training for the eIMPACT.
Mike from YWCA, we have existing PCH program in Seattle and some.
Good morning, I'm Queen Chan with the Inclusion Service Center. We are a multi-service social service agency serving birth to 106 families throughout the county, and we also do our current PCHP provider.
I'm Jane Silzer, grant writer with CMAC.
Good morning, I'm Russ Bauman with Refugee Women's Alliance. We're a multi-service organization that has ECP, domestic violence, employment, legal and full array of services. We don't currently have a PCHP program.
My name is Misha Waters. I'm with the Ministry Center, and we currently have the parent child program, as well as the Ministry Centers of Social Service Agency. We serve birth temporary policy. Jessica Friedman, I'm the grant writer with Mary's Place.
I'm Kate Daniels. I'm with Child Women, and historically we provided a therapeutic early learning program working with children and families. We're kiddos ages birth to 5 or 6, and we're expanding our continuum of care, really focused much more on community and health-based work, and continuing our center-based work as well. We're located in Urian, and stuff.
My name is Ivan. My executive director. We have after-school program, youth program. We also assist home-based child care providers. These are mothers who take the children. They are trained, they have licenses. They take care of about 5 to 6 children. We assist them in training, in organizing their establishments. We make sure that they follow up the situation of the children. It's very difficult because we have to institute biological measurements. This has been part of the program, but they do follow up. And so we are here because we would want to take the director to provide you more information. Thank you.
I'm Tanya Laskel with Center for Human Services, and we are a behavioral health and family support organization serving North King County, Shoreline, Kenmore, Lake Forest Park, Bothell. Yeah, we're just interested to learn more about the program, and I'm interested to find out more about the range of contract amounts. So if they're 8 to 12 new or existing expansions, how much is a contract generally going to be?
Hi, my name is Sugay. I'm one of our presidents, and We are serving East African immigrant refugees who are in Seattle County area. Even already mentioned the program, but we serve young people with the RFP program that we are running in September, and also we do job range program for young people from age of 20. Our focus is really to help the home child care providers since for the past 7 years, and also we start this program this year, and we will going to expand that program for home child care providers as well.
I'm Sarah Stewart. I'm the Development Director of Open Arms Perinatal Services, and I have a colleague here who can tell us more about your organization.
So we are a community-based organization based here on Beacon Hill that provides doulas for folks who can't afford them. And we do have a home visiting program from prenatal, through birth, through the baby's second birthday, and looking to expand to the acronym kills me. CHP. And a question that I had was thinking about startup costs for a new program, and then how those are separate from the renewable contract after that, and how that breaks down.
And your name is?
And my name is Michelle.
Thank you.
My name's Michelle too. I used to work at Open Arms, and I don't anymore. She took my job. Michelle took my job. I'm Michelle Sardua, actually. Melanie Maltree and Aaron, what is your last name? Murphy. Aaron Murphy's co-workers. I work in King County, Best Arts for Kids, and I am here because I'm going to have to do this. And I need to learn from my colleagues who have taken the first step. So,
Thanks. And then I think, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah.
Great.
So I'm Carrie for National Solid Ground.
Great. Do you want to share a little bit about who and where Solid Ground serves?
Yeah, so we're a large multi-service agency serving about 62,000 people a year in Seattle County through anti-poverty programs. And we have a couple different residences with formerly homeless families that we're looking at whether or not this is a fit or not. So trying to understand if there's applications for non-rural populations and for a specific population that we have out at San Francisco.
Great, thanks. So I want to mention again, just because a few more folks have come in, that this session is being recorded. Only myself and Pam are going to be visible, but if you are speaking, then your voice will be on this recording. So just to let everyone know. Thank you so much for being here today. Yeah, sure. Great. So we have been doing some introductions. So if those of you who have just come in don't mind introducing yourself, your name and organization, and just really briefly who and where you serve.
I'm Latasha Jackson Rodriguez. I'm Executive Director of RAP. It's an organization dealing with the underserved, at-risk youth. We work inside of the schools as well as outside, and work with military families as well.
Thank you.
Reverend Jimmy James. I'm Reverend Jimmy James. I'm Executive Director of BEST, being a part of for supportive transition, and we help organizations, help people in the community, underserved communities, to transition back into the community of whatever conditions they're coming from, homelessness, reentry. We have a strong emphasis on working with people coming out of prisons and their families. So helping them transition to get back together with their families and start their lives.
Great, thank you. Hi.
My name is Charles Allen. I'm with Joey. Reclaiming our spectrum in. We do restorative practice. We have this skills and skills.
We're in the South King County, Kent and Auburn area.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think Did you get a chance to introduce yourself yet?
No,
Go ahead.
I'm Elliot with Southwest Youth Family Services. We provide public background services to families in like Southwest Seattle, White Center areas. We have 3 locations where we work in county housing authority to do a lot of like outside of school programs and summer and after school, behavioral health, family advocacy, and education.
Great, thank you. And then would you mind introducing yourself? Welcome.
Hi, I'm Anthony, I'm the Executive Director of Southeast Youth Family Services.
Great, thanks for being here. Great, thanks everyone for doing that. It's amazing to hear about the range both of geographies and the communities that you all are serving. So this is a great group. Thanks so much for coming. I wanted to just frame the session and give everyone a reminder and myself a reminder that we are here today because of kids. At the end of the day, we're all here because we care about kids and families in our communities. And so I just want to center us around that thought as we go forward. We know that when we lift up the littlest ones in our communities, we're lifting up everyone. So keep that in mind as we go through. I'll certainly be trying to focus on that. For United Way, we are building a community where people have homes, students graduate, and families are financially stable. Our early learning work fits within that students graduate body of work. And our goal is that by 2020, 80% of kids in King County will be entering kindergarten prepared. So PCHP, the Parent-Child Home Program, is one of our strategies that we utilize in order to reach this goal. And it fits under our parent support body of work. We also fund services in the early intervention arena, as well as quality early care and education. So that's just a very brief background of where United Way fits. And now Melanie is going to share a little bit about Best Starts for Kids and their orientation in this work.
Do I have to get on video here? Okay, great. Well, good morning, everyone. As Lisa said, I'm the Home-Based Services Manager with Best Starts for Kids. I'm super excited to be here. As she also noted, we are making a significant investment in this RFP in partnership with United Way of King County and also the City of Seattle. So I just want to take a minute to tell you a little bit about Best Starts for Kids and also to share with you some of the other funding opportunities that are coming down the pike with regard to home-based services. Just so that you can think about, is PCHP the best fit for my organization and my program and our specialization? Or might one of the other home-based services funding opportunities be better aligned with what you want to do? So briefly, I'll just say a little bit about Best Starts for Kids. So this is a 5-year, $400 million voter-approved initiative. And the purpose of this initiative, of course, is to make sure that all kids in King County get a great start. And so our vision is to see more babies born healthy, more kids thrive, more young people grow up to be happy, healthy, successful adults. And so we're doing this not only by making a significant investment in the early years, but ensuring that the sort of well-being, the thriving that happens in those early years is sustained. And so we also have a 5 to 24 strategy, as well as a community-based strategy, so that the kids who get great starts are really supported throughout the rest of their lives. All of our work is framed by equity and social justice, that of United Way of King County, City of Seattle, and especially, and also King County Best Starts for Kids. And so what does this mean? It means that we recognize that persistent inequities exist, especially by race and place, and that in many cases they're getting worse and threatening the collective prosperity of our families in King County. And so we will target our investments to create an equity impact, and want to be really clear and forthright about that. So Best Starts for Kids, how are we doing it? The framework is really quite simple here. We are investing in promotion services, prevention, early intervention, and also policy and systems change. And so a quick word about promotion, and that is simply that we are trying to increase things that are good for families. So the kinds of resources that are available to families support positive parent-child development and create opportunity. So we're investing in promotion strategies. We're also investing in prevention strategies, and that simply means decreasing things that aren't great for kids and families. And that, so we're looking at prevention of things like toxic stress, and also other environmental kinds of hazards. So, and then there's early intervention, and early intervention is really providing those intensive supports in the case where promotion and prevention hasn't been as effective as we like. And so Parent-Child Home Program, and many of you I know are experts and have been doing this body of work for years, falls heavily into the promotion and prevention area, whereas some of our other home-based investments might focus more heavily on early intervention. And so just quickly again, I wanted to share with you what some of the funding opportunities are going to be for home-based services. And so Best Starts for Kids is making an annual $3 million investment in Parent-Child Home Program, and that's why you're all in the room today. We are also going to be running 2 more RFPs. And so the first request for proposals we're going to run after Parent-Child Home Program is focused on evidence-based, evidence-informed, and promising practices, home-based services. And again, these are just models that many of you may have heard of. So for example, Parents as Teachers is one of those models. Child-parent psychotherapy is one of those models. These just have some level of research or evidence behind them. We have our doulas in the room, right? Health Connect One and the outreach doula approach falls squarely into this bucket. So that will be about a $2.5 million investment. It'll be structured similarly to this one, where we hope to provide base funding over multiple years and then startup costs as well. We will run that RFP in late September 2017. You can look for that to go live around September 21. Just quick plug, if you are not yet signed up for the Best Starts for Kids blog, really strongly recommend that you do that. Erin can help us out with that. And that is to alert you for any RFPs that are going to be announced. And finally, we're also going to be doing a whole new bucket of work here in King County around emerging culturally specific practices. And so rather than, we know that all these evidence-based models don't meet the needs of all communities. And so we want to support the amazing work that's happening in the community and sort of cultivating new sets of services that may not, that may be existing and operating, or maybe it's just a great thought your organization has already been thinking about, but hasn't quite been able to bring to fruition yet. That will be this third body of work, emerging culturally specific practices. Again, these are all for home-based services. And that RFP will go live in January 2018. Thanks, Melanie.
Great. So again, the 3 funding partners have recognized Parent-Child Home Program as a great way to help young kids and families. This is a national program that has been around for 52 years. United Way of King County has grown the program in our community from serving 160 families just in Seattle in 2010 to in the 2016 year, we were able to serve 1,200 families. And we're looking to expand again because we see that it's working. I'm actually not going to spend time today going very in-depth about the model itself. United Way did host some information sessions about specifically the model that some of you were able to attend, and I recognize that many of you may not have been able to. There is a sign-up sheet out on the table when you came in. I am happy to send you the materials from that. including the PowerPoint and a lot more information about the model. And also happy to have conversations as well. But for the sake of time, this session is going to be focused on the RFP process and the application. I will just give a very brief overview, though, having said that. If you aren't familiar, the Parent-Child Home Program is a national model of home visiting for kids in the families of children in the 2 to 3-year-old age range. A trained early learning specialist goes into the home of the family twice a week for 30 minutes each time for 2 years. The home visitor brings a book or educational toy that they leave as a gift for the family. And what they do is they just sit on the floor or on the couch with that child and their caregiver and model using that book or toy for a positive interaction. So the goal is really empowering the parent to be a great teacher and to enhance their child's learning. One critical piece of the model is that as often as possible, the home visitor should be a cultural and language match with the family that they are visiting. There are 50 plus years of research nationally showing that this model works. We are lucky to also have had a long-term study here locally in King County that has also shown great results in this program. And I'm happy to share with you a report of that study, again, if you sign up on that sheet when you came in. And if you have questions throughout about the model, Pam is here today, so I don't want to make it seem like you can't ask any questions about the model, but the focus will be on the RFP and the application. So that is what we are going to jump into now. So everyone should have gotten this when you came in. This is the RFP, and this is what I'm going to be going through for the next bit here. I'm going to hit the highlights. I'm not going to read through the entire thing. I assume many of you have already done that. And if you haven't, you can. And I want to make sure that there is time for questions. I'll just be stopping for questions throughout, probably every slide or so. I also want to frame by saying that we intend for these conversations to continue after this session. So don't feel like if you have a question later, you can't reach out, or that I don't want you to feel pressure to think of every question you have right here, right now. We're around, so you can always contact me and ask us those questions. So page 1 is just a summary and table of contents. And we've kind of already gone over page 2, which is just an overview of the partnership. And so I'm going to ask you to move to page 3, and that's where I'm going to start going through the content. So this details the funding availability, and I think this piece kind of goes to the question that, was it you that had that question about the range of the grants? So $4,300 per family per year is what we expect to be giving the grant sizes. So depending on how many families you are anticipating serving, about $4,300 per family per year. And then this might be a good point. Could you say something about the startup costs and what you're thinking around that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So I guess we pulled the startup costs out of the RFP. So I'll just say that quickly, we heard loud and clear from different organizations in the community that in addition to providing ongoing sustainable funding, it's really critical to have an initial startup investment so that you can do all the things you need to do to start a program. And so the kinds of things that you would be able to request funds for under that
Bucket are software, right? So say you needed to purchase MIS, right, which is the data system that comes with PCHP. Hardware, so if your home visitors in the field need tablets to do their work, those startup dollars would absolutely cover the cost of things like tablets. We've also actually even made an allowable expense for a small portion of leadership FTE, so whether that's management or executive leadership, to really launch that program, right? Like often managers and things like that don't get covered in these programs, but we know how much time it takes to get a program off the ground. So those kinds of costs will be covered in there. Those are one-time costs. And folks will have the opportunity, if awarded, to request those costs and complete that budget post-award process. Thank you.
So moving along, we anticipate funding an estimate of 8 to 12 programs, and this could possibly be a combination of expanding current PCHP programs. So some current providers are actually in the room today, as well as starting brand new PCHP programs from organizations that are not yet running a program. Does anyone have any questions so far? Yes.
Question. So the number of estimated funding numbers are 8 to 12, and then there is existing PCHP already, and there's a new programs. Did you figure it out? How many would be allowed? Like how many is United Way will fund existing and?
Great question. So currently, there are 9 PCHP partners, programs existing already in the community, and those are continuing to be funded as they have been in the past. So anything here would be on top of that, and we don't know an exact number of how many programs we will expand versus how many brand new programs. It depends partly on what we get. So we'll see what the mix is. Does that help answer your question?
It's not clear yet. So so the 8 to 12 max is 12, and you're promising the existing 9 to be funded again, right?
Yes, but they are not included in that 8 to 12. They're
so
separate.
They're not included in this.
Right. So those that are already providing services will continue, and that's separate from this.
Okay.
So only if they would want to expand would they be included in that 8 to 12. Thanks for that question. Yes.
My question is with regard to program content. If I look at the vision, it says we want to see more babies born healthy. This is a prenatal concept. Are we going into the prenatal postnatal aspect of health? Are we going to be implementing the World Health Organization established mother and child program, which is good really, but we need training.
Yeah.
Are you thinking in those terms?
Great. Erin reminded me to repeat the question for the video, just to make sure everyone listening at home can hear. So that was a great question about kind of whether this gets into the prenatal and kind of infant health. And so I think you were referring to the BSK vision statement. So part of the larger BSK vision, and Melanie, feel free to jump in here, does have to do with that prenatal area. This parent-child home program is specifically for families with children that are 2 and 3 years old.
Yeah, you're spot on. And the only thing I would add is that those other 2 funding opportunities will definitely invest in prenatal home visiting programs.
I have another question.
Great.
You spoke about this home visits. Will this include health education, not only taking providing the mother nutritional education, health education. What does it mean to prevent a child from getting sick? What do you look at the child trying to see? How important it is to follow up inoculations, vaccinations.
Yeah, great.
This is going to be what these things.
Great question. So the question is about whether with the home visits, the home visitor is talking specifically about health with the family and the child. And Pammy can jump in on this, but the model really, because it's only 30 minutes twice a week, it's really focused on that book or toy. And the home visitor's job really there in those moments is to play with the child and model for the caregiver. Of course, when you're going into a home, you're going to see other needs, and families have many other needs beyond just that parent-child interaction and relationship. And so, Pam, maybe you can speak to some of the ways that that is addressed.
Sure. So the way PCHP's focus is more school readiness. It's not around particularly the question around health, but the choice of curriculum may touch on the topics. So you may choose a book around dental health, around going to the doctor. It may be one of your themes as part of your curriculum distribution, but that is not the focus of PCHP. It's going to be a host of different and varying topics for parents and children to interact. So it's really building that parent-child bond, but you can touch on various topics for school readiness. I don't know if that answers you. Yes.
Do we have the opportunity for also us who been working as the commission for the last 7 years to base ourselves what we have studied throughout this years regarding how a child is, how a parent is focusing on health issues? Can we introduce ways of making sure that we are addressing those issues that we have observed?
Can I field that
Sure.
quickly? I would just say that it sounds like you've got a model that's really health focused, that is incredible, and that I think that maybe I would think about one of the other RFP opportunities if you want to focus on health a little bit more, because PCHP, the outcomes are really, the program itself and the outcomes are really around pre-literacy and parent-child attachment, positive parenting practices. So maybe one of the other RFPs is a better fit.
Yes.
Question. How does this model work with child welfare involved families, especially whose kids are taken away and yet they have visiting, time with them? So how is this, have you had the experience working this model with those types of families?
Yes, so we have some parents, foster parents, who are the caregiver, in which the home visitor would go into the foster home and work with the child and the foster parent. And then, not here in Washington, but in other parts of the country, there are some PCHP programs that work specifically with parents who have children out of care, that are in foster care, and maybe through supervised visitation, they would do the model and do the visits through the supervised visitation. Sure.
Just a question on the funding availability. I'm not sure, so I was trying to pencil things out, and at 4,300 per family, with about just shy of 400,000 of services in the city of Seattle, essentially that would be a maximum of one new, if it's a new program, only one within the city of Seattle, and we may have 300, just about 300,000. Am I thinking that wrong?
Yeah, I think, so I can do the math really quickly, hold on. For a new program, Pam, as our parent-child home program expert in the room, has said we would want to scale at no less than 30. So if we had 30 families, 40 times 43. So that's at about 172. So you're probably looking at least two programs, but two programs funded within the city of Seattle. And the other thing I would add there is that some programs already operating in the city of Seattle may expand, which means that changes the dynamic a little bit.
Those are over the course of the 2 years period. That's not even
This is, so the contract terms will be for 1 year. Yeah, and they'll be renewable over multiple years, but this will be for 1 year of funding.
And just to clarify that PCHP is a 2-year operational program, so that even though the funding right here is for 1 year, it's expected that you operate for 2 years.
Great, so gonna move through to this piece is on the bottom of page 3 and then page 4, talking about eligible communities and populations. So our goal is to reach communities that still have school readiness gaps and that are currently underserved by PCHP. The RFP goes into detail about the fact that this program targets low-income families and families whose children are not currently attending a child care center or receiving other home visiting services. So these often end up being families that are really isolated. They're not accessing much of what is out there. And PCHP is an opportunity to open that door for them. And then within those basic eligibility of families, we also ask programs to further target who is most in need. Yes.
When you say not accessing other home-based services, is that particular to early childhood home-based services? Or let's say if they're in mental health counseling, so have infant early childhood mental health home visit, would that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Do you have insight on that, Pam?
That wouldn't be a conflict on our end at all.
Because it's not school readiness related. So we're talking more like early childhood development.
Yeah. And I forgot to repeat your question, which was about if they're receiving some other type of in-home service like mental health that is not necessarily related to early childhood. Okay. Thanks for that question. So I gave an opportunity to ask questions beforehand on the RSVP, and there was a question that came in about adapting this model for children with disabilities, as well as a question about the model for caregivers who have disabilities, and I'm hoping that Pam can just share briefly about to answer that question.
Sure. I would like to talk to whoever it is one-on-one particularly, but PCHP, you can adapt some of the VISM or the materials, your curriculum for individual children. Examples, one of our sites had a child who had a sensory issue, so some of the materials that we were planning to give their caseworker or their person who came to their home said these wouldn't work. They had the funds to alter the materials that were going to the home. So you can be adaptive in that manner, but it also just depends on what the disability is and whether or not your staff has the ability to support those families. So we could talk one-on-one, but you can alter your curriculum to support them. Was that helpful? I hope.
So now I'm going to move to the timeline, which is again on page 4. So we are here at the information sessions. On the 29th, we will have a FAQ posted online at the United Way of King County website. Once we've had time to gather all the questions and answers, and we will be updating that over time as more questions come in. So I encourage you to continue to look back at that. A question also came in about what other grant opportunities are available to the community, and Melanie had shared some from BSK. The United Way website, the same website, uwkc.org, where this RFP is posted. It has instructions to sign up to get on our list to make sure that you are notified about all the opportunities when United Way has open funding. So if you're interested in other opportunities from United Way, please go to the website and make sure you get on our list. So the proposals are due September 18th online, and Damien will train you on the eIMPACT system. They are due at noon. We are going to give every eligible applicant the opportunity to come in and talk in person about their application and where they see themselves fitting with PCHP. So those interviews will take place sometime on October 4th and 5th. We will be notifying applicants on October 16th, and then the contracts will begin on November 1st. The actual services we're hoping will begin in January. So if you think about that, this is a very quick time to get a program started up, and we know that, and it's where we are. And in order to hopefully within a couple of years within a year, get the programs all on track with their timing the same. This first year has to be this kind of quick movement on that. So, yes.
So just to clarify, take a step further.
Yeah.
It would be about 2 months to hire and train new staff in the program to start implementing in January of 2018.
Great.
So just, I will be offering the national training locally 2 times from the time of notification. So there'll be 2 opportunities, one in November and one in December for when you hire your coordinator, and for any administrators especially if you're a brand new startup, administrators will need to be a part of the training. So I will offer 2 locally, so you don't have to go to New York.
So they don't get to go to New York.
I know, sorry. You'll get to go when you go for the follow-up training. Yes.
Yes.
Backtracking a second, I had a question around the funding for families in the city of Seattle, families in King County. What you're talking about is where the families are, not necessarily where the organizations. So there are many organizations that are based in the city of Seattle who serve some people in Seattle and many people in South counties, for example. So they would, if you're looking at where the family lives, not necessarily where the organization. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
Are you on the same?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question was about not necessarily where the organization is located, but where the families they're serving are, and some of them may be serving families both inside and outside of the city of Seattle. Great question. Is there another question? Yeah.
So I heard 2 things. One, make sure you said that there's going to be some trainings. Is that coming through the city of Seattle, or?
It's coming out of the PCHP. The question was the trainings that are coming. The training that is coming, I will be offering the national PCHP training for any new coordinator or any new program starting up. And so normally the training would be in New York, Long Island, New York, but I am the official trainer for Washington State. And so I will be hosting 1 training per month, October, November. Actually, I have 1 in September as well.
Sure. So I got it a little late. So you're part of United Way, DSK, City of Seattle?
I am the state director for PCHP. I work for Thrive Washington, but I represent the national office.
Represent the national, okay, great. So that information about those trainings that will come to the applicants who
yes.
are being considered?
Yes.
Okay. And I heard something about, so just to get the gist of the whole program, so school, I heard someone say earlier something about being school-based.
School readiness, not school readiness. It's not based in a school.
Okay, school readiness. Okay, all right.
Thanks. So we have provided in the RFP several data sources that Best Starts for Kids has been wonderful to put together for us. So Melanie, could you share a little bit about those data sources?
Sure, absolutely. So in the application itself, you'll be asked to sort of describe a little bit about the needs in your community, and then how it is that your organization is positioned to really effectively serve them. And so it's sort of understanding what the fit is between the provider organization and the community. And so we have provided some data sources here just to make it easier. Right? There's so much data out there to make your case.
And so there are hyperlinks in the RFP itself that will take you to some demographic data that may be relevant, some needs data that may be relevant. And then also we provided a map of the other home-based services that are being provided in King County. And so it's just useful, again, for describing gaps, for example. And one thing just to think about when you're looking at the map of other services that are available in potentially your region is that some of those models or some of those programs may not actually serve the same population. For example, you described an infant mental health intervention earlier. That wouldn't necessarily be relevant to parent-child home program. It wouldn't be a duplicative service. So if you see nurse-family partnership slots, they are going to be focused on prenatal outcomes, a prenatal population, whereas PCHP is focused on an older population, 2 to 4. So is that correct, 2 to 4? Okay, great. So just wanted, again, to say that those are available to sort of cut down the work a little bit and to help hone in on a needs statement. But we also really, really want to stress that this is not the be-all, end-all of data sources. We know that you have intimate knowledge from working with your communities. And so we absolutely want to hear about the stories and the anecdotal data and what you know from being on the ground doing the work. So again, resources, not the be-all, end-all, and please do share the data you know from working in your community.
Quick question about the map. So to clarify, you were saying this map includes various home-based services.
That's exactly right.
But is it labeled by what those programs are?
That's correct.
Okay.
And you can filter out programs and things like that.
And does it say like number of families served in that area? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly right. It says how many slots. So
how many slots?
Yeah,
okay.
About how many families are served. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Something I want to be sure and highlight is that there is technical assistance available for this application. So we are so lucky and very grateful that through Best Starts for Kids, we actually have access, any organization applying has access to a contractor who can assist you with that application. This is far above and beyond what United Way would normally be able to offer. So we really want to make sure that everyone applying knows about this. And in order to access that, I'll be the main point of contact. So you can reach out to me through email or by phone, and I will be able to connect you directly with those technical assistance providers. And this slide details what they're able to provide, from helping you think through, is this the right program for you, to building your needs statement and telling the story about your community, to even editing and proofreading your application.
Was that your email
yes.
on the top? Is it L. Brooks?
Yeah, and there is another slide with my contact information again, but that is my email, lbrooks@uwkc.org.
If I can just say, I highly encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. It is just something really extra that BSK is really, it's part of their focus on equity, really supporting smaller CBOs so that you can get through the red tape, and a lot of times you hit the wall and not being looked at because you don't have the money to hire a grant writer and all of those things, and so you shy away from these funding opportunities. This is a beautiful opportunity for you to come to the table and to get some assistance in helping you through this grant application. I really highly recommend you do that. Even if you think you have it all together, just have another option.
Okay, so on page 6, the RFP details some grantee requirements. I'm not going to go too in depth into this, but just want you to know, of course, what you're getting into if you apply for this and are funded. So there are, of course, basic program requirements in order to maintain fidelity to the PCHP model. There are staff and professional development requirements for PCHP, some of which we talked about before. The coordinators will be trained locally. There's also a national conference every year that coordinators get to attend. There is every month a coordinators network meeting. So all the coordinators get together once a month, and it's a great opportunity to share resources and learn about what each other is doing and get some continued training. Fundraising activities requirements. This is a United Way piece. So we continue to actively fundraise for the Parent-Child Home Program. So if you are funded, there may be some fairly rare opportunities where we might reach out and ask if you could maybe help us find a family that we could feature on a blog post. Or if you might be willing to speak at an event about the Parent-Child Home Program. So those are the types of things, not too often, but you may have opportunities there. And then PCHP has a data system called MIS. And so programs will be required to input data into that system and be reporting that data monthly to United Way, as well as there will be some narrative reporting. Normally we do it quarterly, but because this year might be a little condensed, it might not be exactly quarterly, but 3 or 4 questions by narrative to United Way as well. Yes.
Earlier there was talk of the startup costs, and you mentioned the software MIS. So MIS is not a web-based.
It is web-based.
It is web-based, so there shouldn't.
I guess there's not a software
cost. Okay.
Yeah, and actually I should clarify because there's actually there's an affiliate fee, right, to participate in National PCHP. That affiliate fee encompasses a whole range of costs, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more about, or I won't know. But there are a whole range of costs embedded in the affiliate fees, such as
the first year, it's normally there's the fees to become an affiliate. There's training costs. There's support from national office in New York, and so all of those are normal fees that would be requested of startup programs. And those fees there's an annual fee also that is also included in the initial startup fees. So,
and that's something that can be requested as a startup.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Another question, so, just going back to participants, sometimes either a family or our programs decide that might not be the best fit for family or for a particular child who is focusing on the role. So if there was recent contact with the learning programs, or maybe a family through homelessness or other issues where you can't continue to participate, does that preclude them from being able to be part of PCHP?
No.
Okay, it's just not something.
No, and then there's always an opportunity. United Way really wants to make sure that you are serving families that are the furthest from opportunity. So if there's these gray areas, sometimes you run into a family, you can pose that question to Lisa and myself, and we will just help you walk through that and whether or not this is the best fit.
Yeah, so the question was about if a family maybe had recently been enrolled, but due to homelessness or some other factors isn't currently, would that preclude them from being a PCHP participant? Thanks for that question.
Lisa, before we move on, just super quickly, I just want to note that there are some other requirements in here for programs funded through BSK. And actually, first, I'll quickly say that everyone will be participating in evaluation, so that the description of the evaluation requirements are there. But that is, again, already folded into the model itself. And then there are some BSK requirements. And we actually like to think of these as opportunities, which is to say that all home visitors will be funded to participate in infant mental health training. So Best Starts for Kids will be providing the funding for that. Home visitors will also be trained in developmental screening, and then there will be some supports for integration of developmental screening into the parent-child home program implementation itself. We also have some resources around a program called Vroom, which is really about supporting parent-child interactions. So that will be a resource available to programs to utilize, as well as some education about toxins in the home, which is actually a bigger problem in Seattle and King County than I ever knew about. So those resources will all be available to programs funded through BSK.
Thank you. So as I mentioned already, the online application is due through eIMPACT on September 18th, and then applicant interviews will be on the 4th and the 5th of October. And at this point, I am going to move into talking about the application, which is the blue sheet that you picked up when you came in. And I want to make sure to give Damien at least about 15 minutes for the eIMPACT. So I may be breezing through this, but again, the conversation can continue. We'll be here for a little bit afterwards, and you can always reach out. So for United Way, our eligibility for the process is pretty simple. Be doing health and human services in King County. Be a 501c3 nonprofit. There are some rare exceptions to that. So if that is the case, please reach out to us. We may be able to work with you. Have a no discrimination in service delivery policy. Be able to comply with the contractual obligations, and then Patriot Act compliance is around avoiding providing support for terrorist activities, and it's a piece that goes into our contracts. So now moving into looking at our application. So this document has some instructions and tips for the application, as well as the way it's laid out is on the left is the question, and then in the middle are instructions for answering that question. And on the right is actually the review criteria. So this is an effort to be transparent about what we're looking for when we are asking these questions. So the first set of questions, 1 through 6, are asking about your agency as a whole. So the mission and when it was your agency was created. And then there's a couple of questions about involvement with the community, one about how your staff and board are involved with the community, and then how your staff and board reflect the community that you're serving. Does anyone have any questions off the bat about this first set of questions around agency?
I have a question.
Yeah.
It may not be asked, but so in Kent we have about 5 to 7 small community-based organizations that have been meeting to bring early learning to Kent, because our community has been moving from Seattle to Kent, and so we saw there was a need. But some of them are too small to that they don't have 501c, or they're not established or don't have enough capacity as bigger organizations.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to do collaborative work where we want to do maybe 5 organizations apply together, is that a possibility, or it has to be individually funded?
So the question was about a group of some smaller CBOs in the Kent area, and could they possibly apply together. Some of them don't have the capacity for a program on their own. And we would be definitely willing to think about partnerships like that. Yes. Anything else?
It sounds like at least one of them already has a 501c3.
Right, yeah.
They could serve as the lead agency and coordinate. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are other PCHP models that look like that and that are already operational.
Yeah.
And we can also get a help putting our narratives together because it would be like different.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
There's a hand.
Yes.
I had a similar question.
Okay.
Which is if there's an existing program and then there's a new program, like a CEO that wants to start a program, if in the midst of these RFP meetings, people look out, you know, and
Yes.
say like, we have a program, we want to start something, maybe we can do this together. Would that then be one application from the group that already has a program? Would it be two applications? This is the new program. This is the continuing one. I just don't know what that looks like. And we're looking at that as a possibility.
Why don't we, why don't we talk offline about that and just understand a little bit more about the specifics of your case?
Okay.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Leave in a few minutes, but maybe I'll email you with the specifics. Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
So the question is about if an existing program is looking to partner with another, would that be one application or would it be separate for the existing one expanding and the new one, or what would that look like? And we'll need to get back, but that's a great question. Yes.
I wanted to find out, you might have already addressed this, but I want to find out, is there a way that we can find out who the existing programs are, if there's some that's in South King County, or where these other programs are?
Yeah, so the
If
question.
there are any South King County.
Yeah, there are, and the question is about how can we find that out? So that is one of the maps that's provided in the RFP. Yeah, great question. Okay, so the next few questions, 7, 8, and 9 are asking about the community that you plan to serve with this program. And making sure that you have considered why this program would be a great fit for that particular community, as well as considering how you recruit and retain staff, if you already have them or if you'll need to be having new staff that are going to be from that population you plan to serve. So those are what those questions 7 through 9 are getting at. Any questions right now? Okay. So questions 10 and 11 have to do with program delivery and support. Question 10 is just really asking you to think about what staffing capacity you will need to run this program, and making sure you've considered the model and the requirements that the model has for staffing. And then question 11 asks about any partnerships or relationships that you have where you can refer families. So like we were talking about earlier, when home visitors go into homes, they often see a variety of needs, and while it's not their focus in that visit, the PCHP program can help them connect to other resources in the community. So we're asking you to think about what other needs might families have, and what do you already have in place, or what can you build in order to make sure that you can give referrals to those families for those other needs. Question 12 is asking about your organization's experience collecting, tracking, and analyzing outcomes, and to think about what capacity you might need to build in order to do the PCHP program.
And can I just say, don't be afraid of this question, especially for the smaller organizations that have never done this type of work. Be honest and think, and use the TA support to help you think through this. And just think of it as an opportunity for growth for your organization.
Well,
Yes.
when it comes to reporting, since United Way of King County is also involved, will reporting go through MIS and eIMPACT, or is there one report?
So the reporting is through the MIS.
Is through MIS.
Yeah.
Okay, so eIMPACT is just for the application process. It won't be used if you're funded.
Right, that's correct. Yeah, good question. And then I just want to mention the last question on the application and then have Damien do the eIMPACT training. This last question is about budgeting, and we're not actually asking for you to create a model program budget. We just want to make sure that you have thought through this $4,300 per family per year. Is that going to work out for your organization? And so if you looked for the budget template on eIMPACT, as some of you have, it wasn't there yet, but it will be up today. And that just provides an example of many of the categories that you should think about when budgeting. It's meant as a resource and it's not a requirement for the application.
What is the max family that organization serve?
So I'll just quickly note that we intentionally didn't put a funding ceiling on there, and that's because the model itself has some ratios around like how many home visitors or how many families a home visitor should have on their caseload. And so Pam can help you, and please chime in here, Pam can help you think about a right size, but we intentionally haven't set limits on the ask.
You can't serve less than 40 when you start up, so think about that, but there's no maximum. And then we can work through it.
So the next couple of slides are some resources just to note that you have access to, as well as a contact information slide that has my info as well as Damien's for eIMPACT questions, and then our Director of Early Learning, Karen Hall Clark's information as well. So this last portion is going to be Damien training you on eIMPACT. So if you're already familiar with this, feel free to head out or do whatever you need to do. Thank you for coming.
Good morning. I'll do a brief introduction of the eIMPACT system. United Way uses this for all of our application processes. For other outcomes that we're doing, we do it for our mid-year and our year-end reporting. So this is kind of the main instrument for United Way. We'll use it for the applications, and once you've submitted your content, then we share the data with our staff for a quick review, and we'll share it with King County, City of Seattle, so they can review the applications. And then we have a rating team that will look over the applications and finally invite everybody, or invite the finalists for the interview portion. So for United Way of King County in our system, if you are new, computer's bouncing a little bit. If you're new to the system, you can go in on the bottom to click and do a registration. The only question that tends to trip people up is it does ask for an EIN, that's the tax identification number issued through the IRS. If you are using a fiscal sponsor, then coordinate with us and we'll register you behind the scenes because the EIN will kind of trip you up. It won't let you proceed if you don't have one. Otherwise, it's just asking the very simple questions. We want to make sure we know who to contact, your address, phone number, email. In this case, I will just log in as one of our test agencies. Maybe. And once you log in the first time, it will actually on the top left, it will ask if you want to register for the application process. And in this case, the test agency is already registered, and you can see that they have not started the application. But you click in the link, and that will gain access to the form. And as Lisa said, everything that we're asking, we really want to be transparent, so we spell everything out. All the questions are in the paperwork. You'll also see the criteria that the raters are looking at. You'll see how many points. So we're being transparent with you guys, and also all the raters are going to see exactly what you guys were looking at when it comes to the questions and the criteria. So you both see all the components up front. And if you prefer to write your application in Microsoft Word, a number of people aren't comfortable working online the whole time. There is a copy of the Microsoft Word template in our resources. I'll show you that in a second. So you can download this, you can write up your entire application, you share it with others, do spell check. That is one of the limitations of the system. It does not have spell check built in. So you can save that. Coordinate, and then simply copy and paste your answers into the eIMPACT. The final submission must be done online, and as she said, it was on the 18th of September. So everything must be in the eIMPACT system.
Okay, it means even if you work Word, you have to copy that.
Yes, you will have to copy it. The question was, if you're writing your application in Word, does it have to be submitted online? And yes, it does. So you could draft on the Word template, and then it'll just take a minute or two to do the copy paste and send it in. If when you open up your system, two of the points that I want to slow down on, at the very top here, you'll see there's a timer, a system timer. The default is set for a 2-hour window. And the only thing the system will note is if you are either saving or if you navigate to a different page. So every year when we do applications or year-end reports, these are fairly narrative heavy. There are people who you're working away on the application, and then you go to a meeting, go to lunch, there's some distraction, and then that 2-hour window kind of clocks out, and unfortunately the screen looks the same. So we'll have people, they'll go back and they'll start typing away, and then when they finally do save, a system error comes up. So we do want to make sure, save with some frequency. I always just say, 15 minutes just to be safe. It's your local server connecting to, this one is actually hosted in Dallas, Texas. And then the other thing I'll point out is you could bump up the font on the top of the screen, just to give a little more visibility. In the application process, I'll skip a few of the easier questions. You'll see on the left-hand side, there's a little green, I don't know if you can see how green it is, yeah. A little green question mark. And if you hover over that, it will expand and show you the instructions. They're word for word exactly what's in here. But if you don't have the blue sheet with you, you can expand that and see. And then also at the bottom of each question, it will tell you how many characters are permitted for that question. The default, we often leave 2,000 characters. It's approximately half a page of text. In some cases, the questions were a little bit lengthy or multi-part, so we did expand to 3,000 characters. It will count spacing and everything. You can check that in Word. You can always do a word count. And if you are drafting it in Word, it will strip out any, if you're doing bold, bullets, underlying any of that special formatting, it strips it down to the bare text, just so you're aware of that. After you've filled out the questions, you can you can print out a copy. And at any point when you want to save, if you do the save my work, it will simply record whatever you've been typing. When you believe that you are done, or that you at least want to do an audit, you do save my work and mark as completed. This doesn't mean that it is submitted to us or that it's locked down. It simply has the system do a quick check to make sure you've answered all the fields. If it was looking for a number, it makes sure that it is a number, not like NA, for instance. So it just does a quick system review to make sure everything looks like it's checked off. Oops. And I just clicked it, so because I haven't written anything, it actually kicked out a long error that I haven't answered the questions. So it is, you do have to kind of navigate going down. Everything's on one page. That was actually, we got feedback from agencies. They didn't want to click around to multiple sections, but it does mean it's one long single page application.
Does the countdown clock reset upon saving, or is it your login session?
The clock here doesn't actually reset, but it does reset the system. And when it gets down to the final 30 minutes, it actually a little a pop-up will appear saying it appears that you haven't been active, and you can reset it from there as well. But every year I'll have somebody, even though the pop-up shows up, they kind of, passively neglect that and get blocked out. So that's the basic application. Let me get into a little content on the system. So the login is set per agency. You can share the login with other staff at your organization. The only hesitation there, you want to be cautious that there aren't multiple people on the same form typing at the same time. That creates a conflict. And once one person hits save, it kind of obliterates the other person's work. So you do want to make sure, you can both share online, you could work from home, work anywhere you want, but you want to make sure that there aren't two people creating a conflict. And there's nothing on the system that kind of shows you that there's another person at your organization working. I already said you could do the copy and paste. The spell check is not built into the system. We want to make sure you're aware of that. And then the other part of the notes that I've got in here is just so you know the navigation a little bit. On the top left, it will simply have the content that we have for your organization. And most of this is actually read-only. If you need to change your contacts or anything, we ask that you email that to us just so we can make sure that we update all of our systems. In the center section, sorry, this computer's a little sensitive. In the center left, it will have any applications reports that your agency has open. One of you said you were from Catholic Community Services. They have a long history with United Way, so we can access historic reports. And then in the bottom left, we have United Way resources. We try to be as transparent as possible. So you'll see all of our criteria, information about our geographic boundaries and so forth. It's not all necessarily relevant for PCHP, but if you want to know about the United Way work, if you have future applications, it's certainly helpful on that. We're working right now on our new strategic plan, so we'll be posting that November, December. And grounding it back to what's important for you for PCHP, in the center of the section, in the center of the home page, if I can get this computer to cooperate, under the headline news, it actually has the different resources that we have for this application.
Sorry, Mike, that's why.
Yes.
Resources.
Yeah, I'm trying to, if I can get this one to click. Oh, here it goes. Okay, so I clicked on the read more under the parent-child home program documentation. So we've got a copy of the Word template if you want to use that. And then essentially it's the sheets that we've already shared with the people who have been at this meeting. So a copy of the instructions, the RFP, and then I will be posting the budget right after lunch today, so you can see the budget content. And over time, I think she said on the 29th, we'll have an FAQ, frequently asked questions. We'll make sure we post that, and if there's any revisions, we'll flag that as revised. So that will be in the center of the homepage. Come on, computer. That's basically it for navigating. We try to keep it a fairly simple system. Yeah, this computer's kind of locking up on me. Are there any questions about navigation? Go ahead.
Especially on the application for working with the narrative, the word comes about another something for the other country, this one, but that's kind of a pain.
Yeah.
Even to invest.
Yeah, so the question was about the word count. So there are 13 questions in the application. A few of them have multiple parts. We do limit it. Most of our questions are 2,000 characters. There are a few that are 3,000. And the rationale is, as much as we want to make sure agencies have the opportunity to really highlight what you're doing, we also have to put in some limitation because all the raters then have to turn around and review all these applications. And for United Way, this one will probably could end up being about a 13-page application by the time all is said and done. And we may have 20, 30 agencies. So yeah, it's kind of the balancing act. We want to make sure you have the right opportunity, but it's not overburdensome for volunteers and raters.
I can also add something to that, which is that with this application, we'll have those interview opportunities. So if there's something that you feel is missing here or that you feel you don't get the opportunity to talk about, to write about, you'll have that opportunity in person as well. And a few of the questions that I knew we had longer instructions for, more things we were asking you to cover, are the ones that have a little bit larger character limits of 3,000.
Yes.
My question was with regard to resources, meaning, for instance, the person that is going to do the home visit. What are the equipment that the person should have? What training do we make sure that the person provides? What are the training opportunities existing? What are the materials that you recommend that the person take? And where there is a machine control, and where do we get those? How do we relate those to that? Is there going to be a book that they can go to? Where do we find it?
I think most of the resources that we have, there was the link in here to some of the King County resources and maps. And then we try to spell out all of the criteria in here so you could see exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah, if there's a page you can go to.
So is I want to understand your question, is this about training for the home visitors, the visiting staff? Yes, so that will be definitely available to programs that get funded, and all the training is provided through PCHP and Pam, who is here, so she can give you more information on that. Great question. I do want to note that it's I know we said 10:30, so if anyone needs to leave, please feel free at this time. Sorry, we went a little bit over.
Yeah, I'll just open it up if there's any questions either about the tool or about Best Start for Kids or United Way of King County's work. Any last minute questions, we'll certainly address those. Yes?
So the application is actually there in this folder now?
Yes, the application was launched on Friday, so you have immediate access.
I went on yesterday, I spoke with you.
Yes.
And I couldn't see the actual application. I'm looking at it, but I couldn't see it yesterday when I tried to pull it up. It just let me register, but it wouldn't let me see the actual application.
Okay, right after the session, we can actually log on to your agency and look at the real content. Yes.
So our organization is fiscally sponsored. So you say that you can register as and our fiscal sponsor? Is it possible?
Yeah, so we can coordinate, the question was about a fiscal sponsorship. We can either coordinate and have you log in under the fiscal sponsor, or if they prefer to have a separate application, then I can register you on the back end of the system. So we skip the EIN portion.
Today?
Yes, we can do that today. Yes.
Sorry, I came in late, so you may have answered this. We have a program both in South King County and sort of in Seattle, North King County areas. So are we doing 2 applications or 1 application? And how would we delineate that within an application?
Yeah, so it's Denise Lloyd, right? And hi. Yeah, so I would recommend 1 application, and you would just indicate who you're serving where in the application. Is that, yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you all for attending, for taking the time out to participate in this. As Lisa said, we're definitely available if you need to write or give us a call. Our business cards are just outside. And I believe you posted them here as well, right?
Yeah, there's a contact info slide.